Hello there, and thanks for joining us on the midweek edition of Journalist Hangout. I am Kemi Foladiemo. Today on the program, Vice President OSINBAJO denies saying kidnapping is exaggerated in Nigeria, as Governors ABIODUN, OYETOLA preach vigilance. Later on the show, SANUSI warns of looming bankruptcy of Nigeria, urges government to end subsidy on petroleum and power. I'll be hanging out today with Babajide Kolade Otitoju, Afolabi Akinola. Tolulokwe Ogunjobi will join us later in the course of the show. Journalist Hangout starts now. In an age of social media activism, drawing the line between fact and fiction is becoming an illusion. One time or another, issues are being reported with or without fact-checking and proper perspective. The recent comments attributed to Nigeria's Vice President, Professor Yemi OSINBAJO, where he is quoted to have said kidnapping in the country is exaggerated and not entirely new, comes to mind. The Vice President, who is still on a state visit to the U.S., where he was said to have made the comments, has denied making them. In a statement now, the Vice President said he was misquoted and his words taken out of context. He blamed the farce on social media, which he said tends to be hysterical about practically everything. Meanwhile, the governors of Southwest states of Ogun, that's DAPO ABIODUN, his counterpart in GBOYEGA, OYETOLA, are preaching vigilance over the rising cases of kidnapping in the region. Let's hear from the Vice President.
In fact, when you listen to some of the stories of kidnapping, some of them are simply not even true anyway. You know, some are fueled by politics, but there are cases of kidnapping, no question at all about that. Every story we try and track. When you track these things, you know, you find that many of them, you know, some are just, people just tell some stories. But the truth anyway is that there is kidnapping, there are, you know, places where kidnapping has taken place. And the way to check it is the work that we're doing with the state governments, you know, namely using technology to track cases. These are economic crimes. If people know that they will be caught and that they will not be allowed to get away with their loot, it will stop in the places where it's taking place. And that's really the work we're doing now with the state government. We're trying to put in place trackers and all sorts of other equipment that can be used to locate these criminals.
Right, so let's begin our discussions on the program today. Gentlemen, you're welcome. Babajide, I'd like to begin with you on this comments said to be attributed to the quarters of the Vice President, and now we've heard Vice President OSINBAJO himself. So how do you correlate what was reported and what he actually said?
Yes, I think that if you watch the clip to the end, the VP made it clear that, yes, there are kidnappings here and there. There are places where kidnappings have been reported, you know. But the point that the VP was trying to make was the fact that in some cases, when you hear about kidnapping actually didn't take place. You know, that is the point I tried to make, which means that some people merely try to blow these things out of proportion and sometimes talk about kidnappings that didn't take place. I don't think that anyone in its right senses in Nigeria would want to give the impression that we don't have a big kidnapping problem. Anyone who says that kidnapping has not reached a disturbing level in Nigeria needs to ask for forgiveness. And I can only ask how that person will face his maker, because it's a big problem in our country. But the point that the VP is trying to make is, look, sometimes we investigate these things and find that kidnapping had not really taken place. So I understand. When you go abroad, for people who have been abusing the VP since yesterday, they need to understand one thing. When you go abroad to try to sell your country, you have to measure your words. You don't go abroad trying to demarket your country, because in the past, some people have complained about even the way the president talks when he goes abroad, that it amounts to demarketing the country. So here is a vice president trying to moderate things and trying to give people hope about Nigeria, trying to give Nigerians in the diaspora a reason to still believe in their country. But people are making it look like the VP said, oh, kidnapping is not really taking place, that people are just making things up, people are just exaggerating the fact of the problem of kidnapping. Kidnapping is a big problem in our country, and I think that towards the end of his speech, he made that clear, that what is true is that kidnapping is taking place. The people who have chosen to take what he said out of context, twist it just to diminish the VP, they didn't quote where the VP said the fact is kidnapping is taking place. But we are taking measures, we are trying to adopt technology to fight the problem. They didn't go that far. They merely concentrated on the portion of that speech where he said, see, that sometimes when people talk about this, we investigate and discover that it didn't take place. It's a natural thing that right. Out of dozens of complaints, if you investigate, you will find that a few are actually not true. That is a fact. We've even seen people set up their own kidnap. Right. Yeah, right. Kidnap. People actually set up their own kidnap. But at the point of taking ransom, they get arrested. So we agree that these things happen. But I am not given the facts from the police. I will not agree with anyone who wants us to think that the problem that we have is not a big one. In the course of 1 month, that's around May 10 to June 14, the police made 424 arrests related to kidnapping. And out of these, 101 of them were arrested in the Kaduna area. 79 of them were arrested in Katsina. You know? So this is the problem, and 54 arrested in Nasarawa and 32 arrested in Taraba.
That was the point the vice president was also trying to say in the U.S., where he said, go to this state, especially the states that are bedeviled, and look at the records of arrests that the police authorities there have been able to make now with this breakdown that you're also sharing.
Yes, the breakdown shows that we have a big kidnapping problem. No one can deny that. Right. And we also have the problem of armed robbery. 276 armed robbery suspects arrested within that period. 38 of them from, I think, Edo State.
All right. That said, now, Afolabi, I'd like to hear your own initial remarks. If you stretch further what the Vice President actually said now, especially where in what Mr. Laolu Akonde, the spokesman for the Vice President, shared afterwards, where he also tried to draw a line between politics and the rise in crime, kidnap especially. How do you view this saga now and the way the government is, taking this problem head on?
I think it's quite unfortunate. I think the VP's speech was very clear, was very emphatic to all lovers of democracy and sanctity of human lives. I was discussing with, I think, Honorable Fatih Regus from Ijebu-Jesha the other day that Nigeria is a brand, either we like it or not. To me, Nigeria is blessed. We are still giant of Africa, one way or the other, either you like it or not. We are professionals. This is a blessed country. So you don't expect a vice president in that situation to speak before the international community and demarcate his country. That would be outright anti-clockwise elements to public relations and to investment, driven ideas. So he has made it clear that, look, the government is doing all what it could to ensure that this situation we have is fully addressed. And mind you, the international community is also watching. So we wouldn't like a situation where we make Nigeria, in terms of description before the international media, the report and all that, is completely not a place where you can even invest in the first instance. It went for economic reasons, and of course, you don't expect such issues in that perspective to be completely reported in such a way that Nigeria will not be a no-go area. Remember, there are some countries that even warn most of their citizens not to even near Nigerians, not to near some states as it is. So if that should be the case, the vice president, to me, my understanding and from what he has said, was misquoted. He agreed with the fact that there was a problem. And he also cited that the government is trying to track and make effort to ensure that issues on ground is a very excruciating situation we have, but it might appear difficult, but I'm convinced it's not impossible with sincere and genuine concerns from all Nigerians. The problem will be a forgotten issue.
And some would also argue that, yes, the president went on a mission, but then he met with his countrymen and women. He's accountable to Nigerians in the first place, even though he may have had a broader a mission now to accomplish for the country. Babajide.
Yes, he met with his people, he met with Nigerians, and I don't think that he lied to them. The impression that some people want to give is that the VP went there and lied. He didn't lie to his countrymen and women. He didn't lie to his compatriots. He painted the exact picture of kidnapping in the country. No doubt, kidnappings are taking place here and there. Some of them, sometimes a story of kidnap is put on social media without being verified. That's the point that I try to make, and that upon verification, they will discover that it didn't take place. I don't think there was anything in the VP's breath that suggested that he was trying to lie to his people. Yes, he's a good communicator. He's an undefeated debate champion in Lagos State in his prime. He knows the value of the spoken word, and he spoke the right way, the way that people won't give up on their country, the manner in which people will be able to retain some confidence about Nigeria, and that's what I would have expected him to do. He didn't disappoint me the way he spoke, and I'm completely proud of him. If he went there to tell an outright lie, then I would be condemning him here, as I've criticized him in the past. I'm not afraid to take him on. I'm not afraid to criticize him. But the truth is, I do not see anything that he said that was wrong. He tried to get people to realize that, yes, we have this problem. We are trying to address this problem. He talked about the need to use technology, right. What they are doing to use technology.
I want to bring in Kemi, who is joining us from Lagos here. Femi, you're welcome. Journalist Hangout, carry on, please.
Good evening, Auntie.
Good evening.
I thank Babajide Ositoju very much for his analysis. So also Mr. Folabi. I am a journalist too. What we witness these days in the area of social media, I really can't understand. Nigeria is a brand, like Afolabi said. Why are people trying to really tarnish the image of Nigeria? I want Babajide Ositoju, Yori Folani and Alake to really talk to this lady, your view.
Mr. Femi, Just address your concern. Let's not entirely go to calling names now. It appears we lost signal with Mr. Femi. It's such a shame. We hope you can reconnect and, you know, tell us more. Give us your take further. Many thanks. All right, let me just get Folabi's comments now based on what has been said on this table so far. But then how do the whole of the Vice President's comments now, because it appears that not all the entire remarks are in circulation at the moment, but then how does the Vice President's position expressed abroad now, how does it ameliorate now the pains that, because it seems to be that, you know, all sorts of people will be, you know, having a hand in what the president said. But for those who are victims of this horrendous crimes of kidnapping, how does the Vice President communicate his sympathy to them?
I think it's clear. I think kudos to Journalist Hangout program, because one of the reasons why this program is there is to ensure that facts are monitored and explained the way it should be. So I think the media in this instance, not only TVC, some other media organizations should ensure that at least the proper perspective of what the Vice President has said should also be made clear to Nigerians. It is normal for people to distort information. It is normal for some people to just ensure that at least you do certain things to demarket or to completely rubbish a personality who is representing us in the capacity of the Vice President. But it's another thing for the public relation organs of the Vice President or whoever is in charge of the media and publicity to ensure that the proper perspective of this is being relayed to Nigerians. Although I've said it on several occasions that to me, it will be offensive to public relations if you repair a faulty generator by painting it. I think what the Vice President has done, he has made a clear report and he has suggested solutions in juxtaposition. He has made his point clear, but for the misinterpretation, it is normal in some quarters, because I know that anytime our leaders travel out of the country, their comments are very critical.
So to get key.
So people are just looking for also, even if it is just, so anytime, make your research, conduct it. Anytime they travel out of the country, their speech becomes subject of international debate. So I think the government has also tried extensively to ensure that those who are, that's one of the suggestions he made, that they are on course, they are tracking, the government is really trying, to the best of my knowledge, but because it's not everything in terms of strategy that will be laid in the public domain. This has to do with intelligence, this has to do with surveillance, this has to do with so many things that are not in the public view.
And are not even fit again for public consumption.
And there are some suggestions and strategies they have made that is not in the public domain for now.
Absolutely. So
which is very futuristic. Because, so that's my...
Right. Babajide, I'd like your take on this. Afolabi had also said earlier that, you know, his comments also come at a time where countries have also, the UK... All right, just before we take that, Chris is also joining us from Lagos. You're welcome.
Good evening to
Prince, you're welcome.
In the studio.
Thank you.
Babajide,
Good evening.
Good evening.
good evening to all of you. May God bless you and bless your management. You see, what I want to say is this come on social media. The other time around, when Mr. President visited America or London, he was talking about corruption. Down in Nigeria here, he was saying, well, Mr. President, demarketing Nigeria. That's what he was saying there. But the president wants to say the truth, he wants to say it as it is. Now, the Vice President is there too. Social media now say all this. So did they want Nigerians living abroad not to come back to their home? Because we will have security problem, and we are tackling the problem squarely. And what I want to say, Mr. Ositoju, is what of this cultural group? I'm not aligned with those social media. What of those like Pandit, the Afenifere, the Oanyese, the Middle Beta, criticizing the Vice President openly? What do they expect Mr. President to say?
Prince, thanks a lot. Babajide, right. And, okay, he was making reference now to part of the reactions that have trailed the Vice President's speech over there. Right, but if I get what he was saying, he was trying to say people have said is a bit insensitive. It was a bit insensitive of the Vice President to have said that, especially in the light of those who have been killed as a result of these crimes, and again in the light of directives from the UK, for example, to its nationals not to visit certain parts of the country.
Yes, I think that one, I will not condemn the socio-cultural groups for those comments. We need them to make our leaders sit up.
Check, right.
Everyone can be a Buhari supporter. Everyone can be shouting hallelujah when we're in crisis. There are some people who have made a career of simply praising the government, even when the government is not doing the right thing. How do you then get the best out of your leaders? If at every point you praise them, even for things that the president or the deputy will eventually realize that it was an error. You sheepishly praise them for everything. No, that's not the way patriots should behave. True patriots should challenge their leaders to do well for the people. And I don't think that for someone like President Buhari, that I have known for years, I don't think that simply praising him at every turn impresses him.
Will end you in his
No,
books.
he's not that kind of person. Or these fellows don't know. The president wants to be told the truth. And I think the VP too wants to be told the truth. They want to leave Nigeria better than they met it. And we all have a stake. We all have a role to play to say, Mr. President, you should have done it this way. And then we should be patriots and patriotic enough to admit that the government has got it right. Once the government does something that naturally has pleased the people or will make Nigeria better. So this is the thing. There's no need to condemn Afenifere for their comments. If they were misled to think that this was the way the president or the vice president spoke, and we are seeing now from that tape that was played that the VP was quoted out of context. He went on to explain that indeed at this time we have kidnappings in different parts of the country, and went on to explain what government was doing to solve the problem by using technology, trackers, and the rest. The people who chose to quote the VP out of context never went as far as explaining to us that he indeed admitted that there's a kidnapping problem and that they were making moves to solve the problem. They didn't do that. So if the Afeniferis and other people were misled, they didn't, because the thing was, the vice president's speech was not properly reported, then I have no reason to blame them. I need them to challenge the government of the day, because I challenge the government of the day. It is what I do. So I cannot criticize them for doing that. Maybe, you see, as I've said before, the greatest revenge against the hater is success.
Results, yeah.
When you are successful, it nettles the hater. The hater will be running from pillar to post and be wondering, with this person that I expected him to fail, you can see that he's succeeding. So the fact that some people simply do not see anything good in what the government is doing will not stop the government from recording successes. And that's the way the government should see it. Once you stay focused, you know that your conscience is clear, you are committed to working for the people. It is your goal that you should concern yourself about, not about what those who have made a habit of simply not seeing anything good in what you are doing are saying. No, the government should not be distracted. What is good that he admitted that problem is there. If he didn't admit, I would have been saying something different on a day like this. But he admitted that that's that problem. And I'm happy to hear that they are making moves to solve the problem.
Situation. The Vice President also dropped some key hints now, and it takes us to the other arm of this conversation, where governors of the Southwest are also, talking about it, preaching vigilance. In Vice President OSINBAJO's words now, some arms are still in circulation, that needs to be mopped up. Now, perhaps that is also a hand, or giving a hand now in this rise in kidnap cases.
Yeah, that's why in clear principles of governance, a single tree cannot make a forest. So even the state governors have a very big role to play. And I think with the summit and all that, it shows clearly that coming together of the governors to address this issue together as far as economic integration and policies are concerned, it becomes very, very important for us. Because mind you, you are the chief executive officer of the state as a governor. So the security of lives and property should not just be theoretical, it must be practical. That's why the fact that we know that we are handcuffed constitutionally in the area of the fact that the police are not directly in charge. I mean, the governors are not directly, in control of the governor of police officers in the state. But of course, there is a way they can influence actions. So integrating, security, policies across board from all the governors. Even the Southwest governor, they just had their summit and all that. Will go a long way to address the situation, because a single tree cannot make a forest, and nobody's an island. So the vice president has kickstart. So I think it will also snowball to states. By the time all the governors are also on their toes in their various states, so then the problem becomes a thing of the past with our collective effort at state, local government, and federal level. We'll come to a conclusion.
All right, gentlemen and our viewers, we'll discuss these issues further when we return from this break. Stay with us. Many thanks for joining us again on TVC News as we delve further into journalist hangout discussions for today. Babajide, still on the issue of more concerted efforts on the part of the government at all levels so as to, nip this in the bud. You said earlier, you talked about, trackers, and the governors of the Southwest are also thinking in that direction, talking about scanners, talking about intense vigilance to beat the kidnappers. What are your thoughts in this regard?
Yeah, I was happy to read Governor OYETOLA one warning fifth columnists to desist from sharing unverified and unfounded messages which drive fear into the people and worsen the situation through the social media. And then he also made the point that they are collaborating with local vigilance groups and hunters who understand the terrain better so that they can properly police their communities. I think all the governors of the Southwest States were in agreement that community policing will help us to defeat kidnapping, while, of course, working with the conventional security agencies. And then the governor of Osun State also talked about the need for joint security patrol consisting of the police, the army, and other security agencies to patrol the state, especially the highways and the flashpoints where criminals launch attacks on innocent citizens. That's Governor OYETOLA. And the governor of Ogun State, DAPO ABIODUN, said that most of the criminals carrying out these kidnappings are foreigners. He talked about a trailer load of non-indigens apprehended somewhere in Ekiti, but eventually they found their way into Lagos. We have to tighten up our borders. That's the point that the Ogun State governor made. We have to tighten up our borders. Nigeria has become so wide open to all comers. All kinds of characters come into our country. We have no way of stopping people from breaching our border posts. And there are more than 4,000 illegal entry points into our country. So with that situation, we can see that we are unable to defeat smuggling. We are unable to defeat crime because a lot of these people simply come into our country. They bring weapons into our country, to commit all kinds of crimes.
And all these governors are given privileged information. All these have a hand. If you address all these concerns by each of these governors, we might just, be finding solutions now?
Yes, at least we will reduce the scourge of kidnapping and armed robbery, because those are the big problems that we have. When you look at the police record, you see clearly that kidnapping and armed robbery are at the top of the
Right now.
yes, of the chart. And then you also have cultism that is concentrated in the Lagos and Ogun State. So, well, generally, the governors need to even address infrastructure. Bad roads bolster kidnapping in our country, because you know the case of that happened today, the bus that was hijacked, 2 buses hijacked, and the occupants taken away. The kidnappers exploited a deplorable portion of that Ikere Ondo Road. So they need to also fix bad portions of our roads so that these guys, people don't have any reason to slow down. Because when they slow down, or maybe when they run into bumps and they lose a tire, at that point these guys will materialize from the bush and then descend like paratroopers on innocent people. So they need to see beyond the security measures that they are trying to come up with, beyond the galvanizing of hunters and other people. They need to also fix infrastructure. In fact, Governor OYETOLA was talking about electricity. The electricity is crucial to crime prevention.
Right.
And I agree absolutely with him, because when everywhere is pitch darkness, people get away with all sorts of crime.
Right. Afolabi, your final words on this insecurity problems.
I think I'm impressed. OYETOLA is my state governor. I think the other day was with Buratai over this matter. He feels that the governance in any state becomes nonsensical if security of lives and property cannot be guaranteed. Because if you want to boost the economy of the state, you want at least reasonable level of IGR. The security of lives and property in that state is very important. And again, we must not give room for volatility, in the sense that when you have large number of youths that are not doing anything, that are not educated, that becomes ordinarily raw materials for this crime. Because take, for instance, if you don't have, and I do mind is a devil's workshop, because most of these people, if they don't have internal collaborators, it becomes very difficult for them to carry out most of these acts. So we need to address state of unemployment at a very alarming rate. So because, and I do mind, like I said, it's a devil's workshop. If you are not doing anything, if you have a large number of youth that are not educated, are not even ready to go to any farm any longer, because of that, as a result of it, it will aid insecurity. So whatever measure we want to put in place, this is the first time in the history of Nigeria that, that the role of traditional rulers would be more pronounced. There should be a strong synergy beyond conventional police about the traditional rulers across board to ensure that at least they work hand in hand with the state government so that security of lives and property can be guaranteed. That is just my take on that. There must be that synergy.
All right, still ahead on the program, Emma of Kano rings the alarm bell over the Nigerian economy. We'll have that in a moment. Stay with us. So the economy becomes perpetually overburdened when consumption outweighs production and investment in a country. Well, the Nigerian economy is heading for the rocks following rising debt servicing, now put at 70%. And it was Emir of Kano, Mohammed Sanusi, expressing his concern, crying loud over the unfavorable economic policies that could lead the country into bankruptcy if not checked. Emir Sanusi, a former CBN governor, now wants President Muhammadu Buhari to end the subsidy regime on petroleum, which gulps more than 1.5 trillion naira of the country's revenue annually. According to him, as long as the federal government continues to pay subsidy on petroleum and electricity, critical sectors like education, infrastructure, and health will suffer. So time to end this soon, or Nigeria will be heading for doom. Let's hear from the Emir.
ago, I read that the percentage of government revenue going into debt service has risen to 70%. These numbers are not mine, they are public numbers. I read them in newspapers. I'm no longer in the central bank. I don't have access to confidential data. Now, if you're spending 70% of your revenue on debt service, and then we continue subsidizing petroleum products and spending 1.5 trillion naira per annum on petroleum subsidy. The other 30% is gone. And then we subsidize electricity tariffs. And maybe we have to borrow from the capital markets or from the central bank to fund the shortfall in the electricity sector. Where is the money to pay salaries? Where is the money for education? Where is the money for healthcare going to come from? For 30 years, we have had this project called petroleum subsidy, which is not a subsidy. In economics, it's a hedge. We don't call it hedge because we know the implications. The first step we must do is stop this hedge and at least make it a subsidy.
Emma of Kano there speaking, and it's also the time to bring in Tolulokwe Ogunjobi, who would also join in the discussions. And I begin with you, Tolulokwe. It's good to have you on the program today. Emma Sanusi also went on further to say, as of 2011, more than $8 billion spent on importing fuel, and more than another $8 billion also spent on subsidizing fuel. Critical in his words.
So that brings to the fore the issue that we really need to domesticate production of petroleum products in this part of the world. We cannot continue to import petroleum products. Clearly, this issue of subsidy has been brought up. Remember when there was a protest, 2012, against subsidy removal, and everybody came out, the Ojota Park, everywhere around, and at the end of the day, it was retained because some people had interest. We've heard of people paying subsidy on vessels not even getting into the country. So really, there's a fraud that has to do with this subsidy of a thing. And talking about 1.5 trillion naira annually, how much is our budget for a year? We're doing about 8 to 9 trillion naira, and we're subsidizing for 1.5 trillion. That clearly shows that we are running a deficit already. Clearly, we're already paying debts, about 70% for debt servicing. Everybody's talking about Dangote now. Well, before Dangote, what did the government do about the refineries? We have 5 refineries, I think 4, and one other one that is owned by National Mineral, but 4, Port Harcourt and Kaduna and all of that. What is the state of those refineries? If we were refining locally, we would have been able to address some of these issues because we won't pay some of these bills that we pay at the moment. But some will tell you that if they remove subsidy, how much will we buy a liter of fuel? That is another question. How much will transportation from here to Oshodi, how much will it cost? What will be the percentage increase? What do we expect to happen immediately that happens? What is government doing to cushion that effect if really that happens? Many people are talking about subsidy. It's a topical issue everywhere we go to. Everybody's talking about it because it tends to be waste one way or the other. Yes, I agree it is. But how do we let it work? Our refineries are not working. We keep importing products. All our reserves are used to import products. Anytime we talk about reserves, we talk about 6 months, 7 months imports. That is when we know that we still have a country. If that doesn't work, then we have nowhere to go. So it's a fundamental problem that really has to be addressed.
Right. In the midst of all these concerns that you've just enumerated now, Tolulokwe, the Emma is also calling for Nigerians to be responsible. Babajide, in the midst of all these numbers that he's reeled out.
Responsible myself.
Will it also include the government or the people now having to also take or make some difficult decisions, of course, following the lead of the government?
Oh, let me, because I really do not get that point. But I agree absolutely with him that we must do something about the subsidy. The subsidy doesn't even serve a preponderance of our people. Let me put it this way. The MBS, the Bureau of Statistics, estimates that we have 11 million cars in Nigeria. And out of this 11 million, 10.4 are active. Out of the 10.4, 5.6 million cars are in Lagos alone. So it means that a sizable chunk of petroleum product, PMS, that we bring into Nigeria merely services the Lagos and Ogun State area. You get the point that I'm making? Because when you look 5.6 million out of 10.4 million active cars in Nigeria are in the Lagos area. In my view, if we take away this subsidy, because if we are even to talk about the fraud that goes with it, we can spend the whole day here. The U.S. Energy Agency estimates that we consume between 24 to 32 million liters a day. But we are told that we actually consume 50 million liters. It's difficult for me to believe that. With a gun to my neck, I will not believe. So it means that ghost importation actually even takes place as we speak. But that's an issue for another day. The point is, if Nigerian governors will put their foot down, they'll put their feet down and say, we don't want this subsidy anymore. Each of those governors, if they start today, each of the state governors will have between 30 to 40 billion in their accounts before the end of December. So from this money, because Tolu was talking about the pains that will come with increase in pump prices. From this money, they can buy.
That's IGR.
Yes, from this money, they can buy about 1,000 buses, small buses. They can buy 500 luxury buses. They can buy about 500 trucks that can move goods from produce from one part of the country to another. And there will be enough money left to fuel those vehicles and allow those vehicles to service the people free of charge for a year. This is verifiable. So if they can do what I've suggested, the palliative measures that I've suggested, the greater pain that comes with increase in pump price of petroleum,
will not be
those
by
palliative measures will take care of that. Because a lot of he was talking about how much will it cost to go from here to Oshodi. If those free buses are there, it will solve that problem. I'm telling you, there is enough money. Do the math. There's enough money to make that happen.
That sounds like a truly brilliant idea.
Today, we cannot build. Look at Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. It's been there for years. We don't have enough funds to fix infrastructure in our country. That's why we have such huge infrastructure deficit. Look at the Mambila power plant that we've been talking about for years. It's been there. We just simply do not have money. If we have enough money to spend on infrastructure, we won't be borrowing up and down and be spending 70% of our revenue on budget services.
That was also the point that I made earlier when I was questioning you, because the MI also said that we need more responsibility on the part of the governor, of the governed now, and those who are governing us.
It is the government that will lead the way.
Take the lead.
For me, the government has to lead the way.
Absolutely.
I don't know how you can, if you require a sense of responsibility from me.
There
of
must
course, I'm
be
prepared.
something
I'm prepared. You see, the thing, when people can see clearly that their government is focused,
right.
You see, if you deliver greater infrastructure, even the economy will experience a boom. What is happening? Look at America, for example. I want to just quickly make that point. For me, we should subsidize production and not consumption, because that's what we are doing. Subsidize production of agri products massively. You will see that more jobs will happen. For today in America, there are more jobs than what is it called? There are more jobs available for people who are really interested in jobs than they need. And it's not normal that in an economy that is booming, that you will not have inflation. But that's what Trump has been able to do.
That's what is
Whatever you produce, it will buy off from you. Trump has spent more than $15 billion in subsidy for agri products.
All right. So poverty can, become a thing of the past in the light of what the MI has also said, in light of what has been suggested to ameliorate the frightening levels of poverty in the country, if subsidy is removed.
This is a very brilliant topic, and I think several arguments have been canvassed. But I have an issue with the Nigerian state. If you monitor the history of the emir himself, you realize that in most cases, he's always after good governance. In most cases, from the first among equals. One thing is this: you don't need to be rich to eat balanced diets. You can have little resources and still manage to eat something reasonable. Paucity of fund is not only the problem of Nigeria, but management of even the resources. Governance is not only enough, is not only measured from the availability of the resources, but from the management of that resources. The issue I have with most of our state governors in Nigeria, most of the issues I have is that misplacements of priorities. Even if we have this money intact in billions in their account, you'll be surprised some states, instead of them to invest reasonably in areas that will generate IGR, they'll start building stadium. They will start investing in areas that will not even attract.
That's why I've suggested what they could do with the money. Buy those buses. We've always talked about it. Buy those buses because people need the pain of transiting from one point to another. You must take that away. Exactly. The average man doesn't have the money. Buy those buses, and I've talked about what each government can buy. If you do the math, you see that this is not far-fetched. It's just that governments really do not behave
from
like
the calculation you have made,
yes,
this is even more pronounced in Lagos, because you mentioned Lagos as, in fact,
as
one of the major
points.
Now, if you are going to other states where you can even count the number of buses that will move in a day, because we have such states in Nigeria. Do you understand? Yes. So prioritizing dividends of democracy is distinctively measured from the angle of various governors. What happens to Governor A? The situation with Governor A might not be applicable to Governor B. So, but what is sacrosanct and what is important in the middle of the whole thing is getting your priorities right. If scale of preference is never abused, we'll get to the promised land.
So, Lulokwe, and again, the altar of education now, infrastructure, critical infrastructure needed. All this has been said to have been sacrificed now. We're still on priorities, still on priorities. How much of a yawning gap now have you seen on ground?
It's alarming. It's really alarming. And just before I go there, the IMF and World Bank also lately, the last World Spring meeting, also came up with this issue of subsidy removal, because this is actually hitting hard on Nigeria's infrastructure deficit. Because there's no way we can continue funding 1.5 trillion every year and still think that we could put that kind of funds into building infrastructure. So, of course, the infrastructure gap is glaring. It's clear. We can see it. And we don't have that money to fill it up. Yesterday, the former minister of Trade and Investment, we had a one-on-one, and he told me to my face, he said, the government cannot do it. We need the private sector to come in just like yesterday.
And do they even have the capacity to invest?
Do we even have the environment to make them come in?
Right.
Do we have that?
To make it attractive for investment within and outside the country.
So that is it. So if we want to bridge that gap, which you've identified, we all know, we need to really be sincere, and cushion that effect of subsidy removal, it needs to be properly planned. It needs to be. We need to start up so that we know that, okay, in months' time, we want to remove subsidy. Where do we start from? What do we start doing from now? Because Nigerians will yell. And it will even affect the government of the day.
The thing is,
clearly,
whether we like it or not, at some point,
subsidy will go.
Subsidy must go.
Yes, it will give way.
We are just deceiving ourselves.
Yes, it will give way.
At some point,
yes, it will go.
Because it has to go. whether we like it or not. So it's better we begin to plan. And tell ourselves, how do we do it?
That's it.
You see, my own point is subsidize production. If you subsidize production of rice massively, honestly, prices will crash and everyone will be happy. In America today, as I said, there are more jobs than unemployed people. Right. How did it happen? So we need to ask ourselves questions. And how has Trump been able to keep inflation low in a booming economy? Because it doesn't always happen.
And this can be replicated in the country.
These things can be replicated here. Our leaders go abroad, but they refuse to imbibe some of the lessons that are there for everyone to see. So you don't have to buy, even from Sokoto, for example, you may not need to buy as many buses as Lagos will buy. Invest the quantum of money that you have on agriculture.
Subsidize agriculture. Final word from you, a political will for our leaders now to end the regime of fuel subsidy?
Fine. All I will also say again is that in the spirit of nation building, both followers and leaders are involved. We must be prepared to make sacrifice as a citizen of this country for us to be great.
All right, gentlemen, and to our dear viewers, that's been the program today. The discussion continues. It appears now, seeing as there were other arms that we couldn't treat. Yeah. Right, but we thank you very much for keeping us company, and thank you to Babajide Tolulokpe and Afolabi for your insightful suggestion. In fact, I must take that to the bank, that aspect of solutions for transportation. Right, join us tomorrow again for another episode of the program. And World Journalists Hangout on other platforms showing on the screen on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. And send us your feedback to us, Journalists Hangout at tvcnews.tv. Thanks for watching. I'm Kemi Fola Adeyemo. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.